Okay.
All right, guys, welcome back. This is episode 21. I've got my good friend here, Carlin Hoster, who is she's she's been a longtime friend since basically I joined SubTo, and she runs the growth code with Jesse Stanton. So, Carlin, why don't you kind of kick us off? Tell us who you are and how you got here and what's going on with you right now.
Oh my goodness. Let's let me get specific with that actually. When you say here, do you mean like physically here, or how did I end up in real estate? Because those are two very different stories.
Let's start with real estate. I
Okay.
think we know how you walked up to the computer.
Yeah, exhaustively. Um, Real estate. So that actually stems back to about 3 years ago, specifically the AC. And I'm sure I know Sonja's heard this story before, but I'll tell it again. Basically, my husband is active duty in the military. And for those who are not familiar with how the military operates, it is a very tight base pay. So whether you work 100 hours that week or you work 10 hours that week, you're getting paid the same amount regardless. And so at the time, we had just moved back from South Korea. We had two little girls. They were about 5 at that point. They're 8 now. And then we had Oakley, my chicken whisperer, and he was, I want to say, around 8 months. And then I was actually pregnant. So that all ties together because our AC does this thing where in the Southwest, it notoriously goes out at the hottest point of the year, every year. It's been an ongoing tradition. And so the AC went out. We fixed it once, $300 bill, ouch, cried, upset. And then the AC went out again about a week later. And so we had the guys come out and they said, okay, look, this is what's going to happen. Your AC is old. It's not going to work. Like, we're going to have to keep doing this. So you actually need to replace the entire unit. That means indoor and outdoor. We're like, okay, cool. How much is that going to cost? They're like, 6 to 7 thousand. Like, oh, military pay doesn't really like that number. So lo and behold, I started digging down the YouTubes and found wholesaling. So I looked into different things. I looked into crypto, I looked into stocks. Yeah, those are all great, but those were not going to pay for the AC the way I needed them to. And so I started digging around in the wholesaling space. And my husband, James, was actually in the Air Force with Jesse. And so James was like, hey, I actually know this guy who's in real estate. I don't really exactly know what he does, but you should reach out to him and talk to him. I was like, okay, cool. So I reached out to Jesse. Jesse sent me on this wild goose chase of, your first introduction to real estate on the wholesaling side. He's like, okay, you're going to collect this, and this, and then you're going to come back and we're going to do the calculations, and then you're going to go back to the seller with an offer. Like, okay, cool. So I go walk around this guy's house. He's doing a FISBO. I got my clipboard looking like a complete asshole, writing down all the things that are wrong with this property. And I go back, I'm like, hey, I know you said you wanted your house for 140. I can do you one better and give you 67. He's like, no. So we dug a little bit further down the rabbit hole into wholesaling, learned how to not appropriately insult people to their face. And after about 4 months, we got the cash to pay off the AC. And we just kind of stuck with that there and rolled with it. It became something that both of us enjoyed doing and something that both of us could actually do together. We don't actually work together anymore, interestingly enough, even though we're married, don't work in the same space. Um, and yeah, so that's my AC exploding is literally how I got here.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. We struggle with AC here too in the Southeast. It's not any friendlier, and it
Yeah.
always goes out at the wrong time.
Yeah, like the worst possible time. Ours went out on July 18th, if I remember correctly, and then went out again July 23rd, which was the day before my daughter's birthday. So that was great.
And in a very short time window as well.
Yeah.
Killing it, man.
Yeah,
How
so we had one of those little portable ACs. We had sheets hanging up through the house so you could cool down one section. It was a disaster.
I love that Jesse sent you on a wild goose chase, just like pretty much everything that Jesse does.
It was fun though. Like he explained to me like how to collect the four pillars. Like, okay, why are they selling? How much do they need? I can't remember the other two because I don't like wholesaling, so I don't do that anymore. But um I collected those pillars and that guy did not like my offer. It's like
Did you
uh,
actually like walk up to his face and give him the offer?
yeah, yeah, I did. I like as like a complete novice, I had like the clipboard with all of the things written down, like, oh, your AC is not up to date. That's gonna be 6,000. And I handed it to him. I was like, look, this is why you're getting this offer. And he was just like,
He was like, yeah, and
I think not. It's like, okay, that's cool. That's cool. So,
it
learned a
sounds like you
great
didn't have much sales training going into wholesaling, did you?
none. No, I'm not a salesperson. Like, I'm the worst salesperson. Someone could be like, I don't want this. I'm like, okay, have a great day.
Or they could be like, I want this. And you'd be like, okay, you can have it.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. Like I had a homeless guy help me push start my car one time. I had this Honda Civic, had to drop the clutch to get it started. Um, I felt so bad for asking him to help me. I just gave him $20. It's like the worst.
Yeah, so you never learned anything like upsells, downsells, cross sells, or any of that. You're just like, you know what? Here's the information, guy. Like, have fun.
Yeah, so I did door-to-door sales for CenturyLink when I was about 19. And I think the only reason I successfully got sales was I mean, transparently, I was a little white girl in the war zone. Like,
Yeah, and
so
probably looked helpless and innocent enough.
yeah, they're just like, yeah, sure. It's like, that's great. You can cancel it in 2 weeks if you don't want. I just need to get paid. Like, okay. I had like the worst cancellation rate. It was so bad.
The Carlin, the oddly transparent door to door salesperson. I could totally see it.
Yeah, it was. I was not a good salesperson. I've learned a little bit since then. But I spend a lot of my time just behind my computer doing like management, building out different workbooks and things. Like I'm
Not sales.
not generally doing sales now.
Because I hadn't told you this yet, but I had the conversation with my buddy, the one with the Katy, Texas property last night. And that was so Johnny and I talked last night. We underwrote it. And I had to call him because I was like, look, I know this is what you want. So I'm doing my best to get you what you want. Right now, you're nowhere close. Like, I'm going to work on it, but I can only do so much. And I think that's the hardest part about sales is like you just got to be transparent, right? With him, he wanted to walk away with 130, 140 from a cash sale on a house with an ARV of 250. Like,
Mm,
what's the likelihood of that? I don't know. Well, there's still a small portion of mortgage in place. Okay, well that eats into it. There's solar. If he didn't have solar, he'd have been a lot closer. um,
yeah.
and there's still rehab to be done. So I told him, I was like, well, you can probably walk away with like $23,000.
Hi guys.
Hi Johnny. Yeah, it's they don't like those kinds of things. As it turns out, who would have thought?
Well, and I think what it is too, right, is you have to, when you're in sales, you have to sell them on the vision. And I'm sure you probably have experienced this being in the coaching space now, right? Like, you have to sell them on the vision, but more often than not, they already have a conflicting vision, which is what he had. He was like, I'm going to sell this house. I'm going to make all this money. I'm going to walk away with it with this much. And then I'm going to put this much in a private equity fund. And that's going to pay me for the rest of my life. I mean, my dad will be set up in another state.
Yeah.
Cool. Sounds great. Uh, it's not based in reality though.
When it comes to giving people numbers, this is something I actually do know in sales. When it comes to giving people numbers, they've already spent that money in their head. Like
Yes.
like you have to rationalize why that's not the appropriate situation. And I think that's the hardest part that most people come up against is when someone has $140,000 in their head and they've got all these big dreams and big ideas. And then you have to be like,
Mhm.
hey, the reality of it is, unless you're gonna have someone pay for this with like their own mortgage and everything, 23 is what you're gonna get. But here's what you could do with it. Like, let's talk about that. What are your some what are your goals? What are your ambitions? What do those actually look like?
Yeah. And like you said, he's already spent it in his head. And so what I had to do with him was walk him through it. Like, you can still get that, but you're gonna have to put it on retail. And is this house retail ready? And do you have that amount of time to sit? That
Yeah,
that's the reality of it.
yeah. Ugh.
So tell me this, because you said you and James are working in different spaces. What are y'all doing separately now?
So I work in the growth co. That's my bread and butter. That's where I spend like 98% of my day is doing like back end management stuff. I personally prefer to be on like the not face of things. So I'm usually making sure everything's in order with the team, making sure everyone has what they need. I love building curriculum, so I spend a lot of time building out curriculum, doing things that can kind of correspond with that, making sure everything is in place. And then um, James is actually an operations manager for a separate company. He actually works alongside Jesse as well. So he does his own thing, I do my own thing, and we have great business conversations at the end of the day. Because when we were wholesaling together, ooh, it was,
Butting heads.
yeah, it's like, well, you need to do this and you need to do this. I was like, well, I can't do that until you do this. And it was just a whole lot of, I remember the drawing point. I looked at him, I was like, I'd rather just not have any money than have to deal with this. And he's like, what?
You're like, I'd rather just be broke than have
So we,
the problems in the marriage and be broke.
yeah, so we wholesaled our last deal locally in our own market. And then after that, we reassessed what we were going to do for entrepreneurship moving forward.
So he went and became an OM for Jesse's buy and hold company, and then you went to the growth co.
So about 2 weeks before we dispoed that final deal, Jesse came to me. He's like, hey, I have this plan, I have this vision, and I see us working together to make that thing come to fruition. I was like, perfect, let's do that. And that's what we did.
And for those people that don't know, can you explain what the growth co does?
The growth code specifically focuses on buy and hold structure. So how you need to be developing like your team, how James is an OM, we teach you how to bring those people into your business so you're not trying to manage literally every single detail yourself. A lot of that transpires from wholesalers who got into real estate thinking that that's how you get into real estate. And while that is true for some people and it works out great for some people, most of the conversations I have revolve around, yeah, I got into real estate. I'm going to do a lot of wholesaling, raise some capital, and then I'm going to get into buy and hold. And I mean, as you know, as a capital raiser, you don't necessarily have to have your own capital to be able to be an investor. So a lot of it is teaching people how to utilize these kinds of strategies. Like, hey, let's connect with wholesalers because they already have deals. You don't have to build out an acquisitions team. You don't actually have to save your own money. You don't have to do, X, Y, and Z if you want to be an investor. You just have to form the right relationships and build the right connections, and it will evolve in that space. So a lot of it is just teaching people how to navigate those conversations, how to build out that team, and how to create a structure of leadership where everyone is able to push themselves forward.
And is REI Volt included under growth co, or is that just totally separate? Because I know that's what Jay-Z does a lot of.
No, so REI Volt is under the umbrella of Third Mind, and they focus primarily on the things that you can do within wholesaling. So underwriting, capital raising. They talk a little bit about leadership. They talk about, what is it, TC. That's a big one. So the parts of the machine, I guess you would say, in the wholesaling space, they've broken that up. And then the reason they brought REI Vault to fruition is because, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, whatever it is for different programs, it's not always a feasible option. So they created REI Vault in a way that allows people who don't have that amount of money to drop on a program to be able to still learn these skills on a more interpersonal level than just going and looking up on YouTube and hoping they do the right thing.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. But it sounds like, from the conversations you and I have had offline that you and James and Haley are coming together now to do your own portfolio. So what are you guys looking to do with that?
Ultimately, we just are aiming to have some properties that will be able to generate enough cash flow that it's not uncomfortable to be alive, if that makes sense. Like we want to have this structure in place where, we've been collaborating for a long time. um James and Haley, I don't know, have I ever told you how that came to fruition?
No, you have not.
Oh Lord.
You and
Okay.
I have had lots of messages back and forth. We rarely between our schedules get one-on-one time like this.
Yeah, so we started out in the wholesaling space with James and Haley, actually, and the reason that came together is because um Haley and I were both on the same mom's page on Facebook.
Mm,
Yeah. So at that time, that was before I had joined SubTo, or no, that was right after I had joined SubTo. And someone had left a comment on a mom page. This is so common for these pages too. They're like, what's everyone doing to earn money from home? And then right below it, they say no MLMs. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So everyone's commenting their MLMs. They're like, oh, I do Mary Kay. Oh, I sell Rodan and Fields. Oh, I do blah, 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 blah. And I commented, I was like, I wholesale real estate. And Haley responded to me and she was like, hey, that's something that I've actually been curious about. Can I send you a message? It's like, yeah, dude, of course. So Haley and I connected through this random mom's page and we got on the phone, started talking, and then we spent about a year trying to wholesale properties together. And it was just like you can't have a bunch of new people trying to build something new because no one knows what the F they're building.
that's fair.
And so it was just a lot of confusion, a lot of like hopes and attempts, and it was stressful. And so I've got the training, I've got the understanding, James. Like there's the experience there that now it's like, oh, okay, we can actually do something. We know the right people, we know how to do this, we know what systems need to be in place, we know what processes need to happen. It just makes sense to do this. And so that's where all of that kind of transpired from, is we're like, this is actually feasible at this point versus 2 years ago when it was like, hey, I'm trying to do this thing, and it's like trying to sell a Reese's to someone who's allergic to peanut butter. You're like, this might work. It could be good. They're like, no, I don't want it. Like, oh, okay. You don't want it. Got it.
And who'd have thought you met your favorite unhinged little gremlin on a mom's page?
Dude, oh my gosh. Our trip to Florida was wild.
You
that,
told you told me some parts about it. Like I was, and her and I were messaging back and forth, and she was like, "Dude," because I told her that like I'm a little wild, not as bad as I used to be when I was younger, and she's like, "No, I don't see that. Like you're probably more like James," and I was like, "I don't think I'm that much like James."
there were some instances. Oh my gosh. We were there for the flooding. Like right when the flooding at the beginning of the year or beginning of the season started. So I'm from New Mexico. Like an inch of rain, you're like, yeah, this is so cool. I'm gonna put on my rain boots, go play in some puddles. And so we're at the beach. I see the clouds rolling in. I'm like, all right. we'll see what happens here. And then there's lightning, and it's like pretty far away. Haley will test it, it's pretty far away. Me, I've seen how electricity works in water, and pretty far away doesn't really matter in that
Yeah, doesn't.
instance.
No.
And so she's like, "Oh, let's just go sit on the beach." I'm like, "No, I don't think that's a good idea." She's like, "Oh, it'll be fine." And so the lightning starts striking and the rain starts going. And I was like, "Okay." And then it starts downpouring, like
I just saw the picture of
downpouring.
y'all soaking wet. That's all I remember seeing from the trip.
Oh my gosh. So we walked off the beach, we went under this awning, and we're like, "Okay, we'll just stay here until the water calms down and, we can finish our walk back to our Airbnb," which, as it turns out, is not what happened. So this guy, we call him Florida Man, came. He's sitting under the awning with us, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it'll usually rain for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then, it's done raining for the day." We're like, "Okay, cool. We'll just wait it out." And then I noticed the volleyball court starts disappearing. I'm like, "Okay, this is a little bit more water than I'm used to. All right, I'll see what happens here." And then lightning hit right behind where the awning was. Like it was, have you ever been so close to lightning you can hear it pop?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really scary. So we heard the lightning pop, and I was just like, "Oh shit." So we run into the bathroom right next to the awning, and we're sitting there, and the water is progressively just getting higher. And Florida Man, he comes, checks on us. He's like, "You guys good?" We're like, "Yeah, we're good." And then he comes back again, and he starts asking questions that I'm like, "No, no, I've seen how this goes." Because he's like, "Oh, so where are you guys from? Where are you staying? What direction are you guys walking?" And I'm just like, "No, I've seen this on CSI. Like, I'm not doing the missing persons thing. I don't know. I'm not doing that today."
Yeah.
And so after
Okay.
like a couple uncomfortable questions, I was like, "Haley, we're just gonna make a run from it. Like we're gonna go. We're gonna run." And the water at this point is like midway up my calves. Like it's getting pretty deep. So we're like running, and the water is pouring sideways. And I look back, and Haley's just gone. It's like, fuck. So I run under like a porch thing, like a carport, I guess. And I turn around, I'm calling for him, like, "Haley, Haley, Haley." And this lady just pops out of nowhere, and she's like, "Hey, are you okay?" I was like, "I lost my friend." And so she's standing there with me calling for Haley. And Haley finally shows up, and the lightning starts hitting again. The water's like halfway to my knees, and we're just like, "Shit." Like, we still have like half a mile to get to our house. And so this lady invites us into her house. We're sitting there watching people just like trudging through the water. And we're like, "Okay, this is great." All right. Because both of our phones died in the transition of all of this chaos. So we charge our phones, and my mom's texting me, like freaking out. The girl that let us into her house is on the phone with her mom. Her mom's freaking out because she just let two strangers into her house. Like it was chaos, dude. It was chaos. That is a very minute instance of the rodeo. Let's call it that. The rodeo of Florida.
The circus.
Yeah, that like that it was madness, dude. It
That's
was
why I was
madness.
telling you if you're gonna move to the Gulf Coast, you just better move to Louisiana because I'm your Huckleberry. Like I'm gonna have to probably come bail y'all's asses out at some point.
Yeah, I'm trying for Louisiana. James is committed to Florida, but I've seen the real estate in Louisiana, and I've seen the real estate in Florida, and the real estate in Louisiana is a whole lot nicer for a whole lot cheaper.
Yes, way, way cheaper.
And also, well, you guys have cooler history, so there's that
That was the
too.
other thing Kay didn't believe me about. We were talking about buying acreage because I want to buy like a huge piece of land and like just build a farm on it. And she was looking, she's like, "Yeah, but where are you gonna get land that cheap?" I was like, duh, right here, like in my backyard."
Everywhere.
She was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah." She looks it up. She's like, "Dude, this is like almost 200 acres and it's not even $1 million." I was like, "I know. You can find it here. That's real. That's realistic."
I think the thing I liked about Louisiana when I was driving through that area was the bayous. Like
Yep.
I had never seen those before. And so just like the highway just like casually goes on top of them. So I was sitting there, I was like, can you just go over to the other lane? Because I really want to see this.
Yeah, there's a lot of bridges. It doesn't make good for ice though, if we get it.
Hmm. If,
Rarely.
big if.
Yeah. When it happens though, you would think the whole world shuts down.
That's fair. That's how New Mexico is. Like if it snows and any of it sticks in the area we live, everyone panics.
Yeah. But like I said, when there's flooding in the streets, we don't panic for shit. Like I've got an F-350, like nothing's stopping me from getting where I'm going. If Carly calls me, she's like, my little car can't get around. I'll be like, all right, cool, I'm coming. See you then.
Bro, I'm a mountain person. If I didn't have four kids, I'd definitely have my truck back. But car seats and children and whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe that's why I need to just have like 3 kids because I can still have a truck and have car seats in the back seat with a crew
Well,
cab.
once they get bigger and out of car seats, trucks are totally fine. It's just impossible to find something with a bench seat in the front anymore.
Oh, well, that's what I have. But it's older too, so you know, take the good with the bad.
I don't know. My parents have a GMC and that thing has successfully nailed out like 200,000 miles on it. And it runs great.
I know mine's pushing 300.
What? See?
Yeah, yeah, dude. Those
Old
old,
does not mean bad. Old does not mean bad.
nah, dude. Those old diesels are great.
Yeah, Jesse has like a newer diesel, and I just give him so much crap because he's like, "Do you know what def is?" I was like, "No, mm-mm." Like I know how to do all the work on my parents' truck. I don't have to take it to a dealership. I'm okay here,
You know how much emissions equipment my truck has? It's got a catalytic converter. That's it. Yeah, yeah. It's got the catalytic converter. There's no EGR. There's no def. There's no bullshit. It's just straight running.
dude. The good old days. Yeah, once the boys are out of their car seats, we're gonna be looking into a more feasible option. But I have an Acura, and it does pretty good. I'm impressed with it.
Sounds bougie.
It's not. It's like the fancy Honda, but Honda's pretty great too, so can't knock it.
Well, I mean, well, you've got the kids that you brought up. Why don't you talk about that balance? Like, because you said you get asked a lot about the balance. You know, a lot of people here are moms. There's a lot of moms in our circles. You know, how are you balancing doing being super mom and running the growth co and building a portfolio?
It all starts with monsters. Monsters and coffee is the lifeblood, actually. No, but realistically, there's not a whole lot of balance. Like that word doesn't like it's you have your family and you have business and they're never like directly equal. Like some days you have to pay more attention to the business and make sure your kids are surviving. But then you have days like Sundays, and so Sundays I actually do girls day with my two oldest.
Hmm.
So just still making sure that you're taking care of their needs mentally, emotionally. They are physically very well taken care of because they just run laps in the backyard for some reason. Um, but I think a big part that plays into it is when they see you doing something that you are passionate about, it makes it less stressful for them. Like if I was just angry all day, every day, and I hated everything I do, and everyone around me sucked, then I'd be a little bit more concerned. But one of the things that James and I push on them is that you can do literally anything, but anything you do, you need to love. So if it's not bringing you happiness, it's not bringing you joy, it's not bringing you peace. Well, real estate kind of doesn't really bring peace, but you know what I mean. Like then put your energy there. So they see us doing things that we actually enjoy doing, and it makes the home life a little bit easier to manage. So when I'm on meetings like this, like every now and then you'll see one of them come in the back door. They're all sleeping right now, so that's nice. But they'll come in and they'll just wave and carry on their day. Like it's something where they've adapted to the lifestyle of it. And they also understand that for us to be able to do the things that we enjoy doing, these are the things that James and I need to do.
I think that's fair. And I asked about balance because that's how it's usually phrased, but I think somebody that I know put it better and they said that it's more like harmony, right?
Yeah.
More like making that things kind of ebb and flow smoothly as opposed to trying to, because balance would usually imply a scale. And like you said, you can't
Mhm.
really get it to be equal on either side.
Yeah, there's one side will always be out of balance. And it's not in like a bad or a negative way. It's just, some days I'm gonna have to cater to my kids more. Like there was one day I had like 7 meetings. I had to cancel all of them because my youngest was just violently sick, and that was the priority that day. I sent a message, say, hey, I'd love to reschedule. I'm so sorry for the inconvenience on your part, but this is what's happening. And most people are pretty understanding of that. So we actually ended up going to the emergency room that day. He was not eating anything, he was not drinking anything, he wasn't holding anything down. And the people that I had to reschedule with, a good portion of them sent me a text just to check up on him.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people put this misconception that, if you're working from home and you're an entrepreneur, then you're going to be wearing a suit and tie all day and you have your button ups and your heels and whatever, and everything is perfect. But the reality is, especially as a parent, that's not how things are going to go. And I don't personally believe that it's fair for a lot of the, especially younger parents, like the parents with little tiny toddlers. It is stressful being on a phone call, like a very professional phone call, and having your kids screaming behind you. What most people don't realize is that, like, I'm going to say 85-90% of people don't care. So we put a lot of stress on ourselves as parents, trying to basically put on this presentation for people that everything's great, everything's professional. No, I don't have kids. They sit and they're quiet and they like to do math and they spend all their day reading books. And it's not. There's nothing remotely close to that. Like if my kids are quiet, there's a huge problem in the house.
Yeah. Somebody's dying.
Yeah, something is drastically wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you brought up a good point too, because I know people tend to fall on one side of the spectrum or the other, right? They're either really bad at committing and showing up to things, which you do have to do as an entrepreneur, or like you said, they're so focused on over delivering this presentation, this facade that just doesn't exist. So I guess what would you say to somebody that's still trying to show up with integrity like that? Like, besides don't worry about what other people think, because I get it. I'm on the phone with people all the time that have kids, and more often than not, the kids are screaming. Usually, as long as they're not screaming in the microphone, you're all right.
I generally preface my phone calls with, hey, I have kids, so if you hear them, just let me know if it's bothering you. I'll move. Like I try to at least give the courtesy of like, hey, this is a very realistic situation, because I've had enough people, like Alex Ricker is on this call. She's actually one of the people I talked to at one point where my kids were just going batshit crazy. And she's one of the people who kind of brought this to light to me, that I am a mom. My kids are human. They are going to make noise. It is, I create more stress for me than my kids create for other people, because we try to maintain this identity of professionalism. And while it is important to be professional, it's also important to understand that your kids are developing, evolving, growing, they're learning new things, they're experiencing life. And most people on the other side of the phone just genuinely do not care. Like if it's disruptive, I just ask people to tell me so I know how I need to adjust my situation. And a good portion of people are very respectful of that.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, like I said, I've had people apologize for their kids, and like I said, usually as long as they're not screaming in the microphone, I don't see why anybody on a call um would beat you up over having kids or background noise or whatever. Like, we all have lives, we all have things going on. It's just the way that it goes.
From a parental perspective, a lot of the times, first and foremost, juggling business and kids is hard. Like, hard is a very, very light word I would use for that, actually. But as specifically a mother, because I've never been a father, so I can't really speak on that side of things, but specifically as a mother, when your kids are rowdy and wound up and just going haywire, entrepreneurship aside, you're already stressed out. Like, you are way overstimulated, you're exhausted, you're already on edge. So to add a business call on top of the mix, it teaches you a very important lesson of self-reflection, basically. Like, you get very well adjusted to, I'm overstimulated, my kids are not the problem, it is literally a me problem right now.
Yeah, that's one of the things I usually tell people too, is it's like you have to add on more things to your plate and kind of stretch your limits, right? Because all
Mm-hmm.
that ends up happening is you adjust, you adapt, you learn, you get better. But you can't do that if you're constantly trying to recede or trying to hold up or prop up this facade and stay within your comfort zone.
There is a very, very, very Katie, I don't think I've ever felt so seen. Dude, you can reach out to me anytime. Anytime. It might
Yeah,
take me like a week and a half to respond because sometimes I forget I open messages. But you can reach out to me, send me a friend request on Facebook. We can mompreneur the crap out of this together. Um, I forgot what I was saying before that.
I was saying that like people put a lot of effort into
Oh,
holding
right.
that facade.
Okay. Yeah, there's a book I read recently called You Got This. And the whole premise of that book is actually, it's very psychology based. So if you like statistics and things like that, it's very heavy into that. And what the premise of the book is explaining our our psychological response to stress and anxiety and how that all plays together, and actually how you can expand and push your comfort zone. Because what it's talking about is when we are experiencing anxiety and stress and things like that, it's based off of our primal fight or flight in the amygdala. So our amygdala is like, ah, this is dangerous, this is so scary, even though where we are now, it's like, oh, I have to go talk on a Zoom. Talking on a Zoom was really scary for me at first.
Mhm.
Horrifying, hated doing it because I hadn't stretched yet. So my brain is treating it like I'm being chased by a freaking Wolverine or something, because this is what our brain perceives as fear. This is what our brain perceives as danger. And
Mhm.
so you have your amygdala responding a specific way. And then you have the other part of your brain, which creates the rationalization. It's called the thalamus. And your thalamus is saying, hey, no, this isn't dangerous. But the thing is, we never take the time to listen to what our thalamus is saying because we're too busy responding to what the amygdala is telling us. So this
Mhm.
book is really interesting because it talks a lot about how you can stretch your rubber band, I guess, stretch your comfort and do it in a way where you don't burn yourself out. Because I think that's a big problem most people have is they're like, oh, I have to push my comfort. And then they do this absolutely outrageous thing for that person individually. And
Yeah.
then they exhaust themselves and then they're not willing to do that again.
Right, they do like the mental equivalent of running a marathon with absolutely no training. They just go
Yeah.
straight out there. They're like, I need to go get paid to speak in front of 1,000 people. And you're like, bro, you don't turn your camera on a Zoom. Like, you probably don't need to be on a stage.
Yeah, like things like that. It's like, okay, let's start by turning our camera on and talking. Let's After we turn our camera on, then we're actually going to come off of mute instead of responding in chats. And then after we come off mute, it's a gradual progression. And what most people and perceive as stretching their rubber band is like, okay, I'm really uncomfortable, so I need to go put myself on a stage in front of 2,000 people. And you're like, that is the worst way to approach that. Do not do that.
That's like you saying you need to work 24 hours straight and just not take a single hour to yourself. It's not feasible. there's degrees to it, just like I was comfortable talking on Zooms and even talking in front of small groups. And then one day Pace highlighted me on family night. And all of a sudden I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, I'm on here with 1,500 people. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, so like you're like sweating bullets. You're like, oh, okay, was not prepared for this. Like
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's a lot. And I mean, like I said, our evolvement hasn't caught up to where we have evolved. Our brain is still very primal, despite what we think and despite the way we act and the things that we have accessible. Our brain is very primal, and
Yeah.
understanding and respecting that is going to make a huge change in the way a lot of people do things. So, 10 out of 10 recommend the book. You Got This. I think the author's name is Carolyn. I can't remember.
But I think too, one of the simplest and easiest antidotes to that is like just surround yourself with good people. You
Mhm.
know, every time I did something scary in SubTo since I joined back in January, I had good people behind me that either encouraged me or kept me going. Even with this podcast, there's more than enough times I wanted to quit, but like this is episode 21.
Woo!
99% end by 20. 99% of podcasts quit before they get past episode 20. Like I wouldn't have kept going if I didn't have the good people that I have around me. Some of them are hanging out here. Johnny's always encouraged me. Katie's always encouraged me. You've always encouraged me. So I would say, to that, yeah, it is scary, but understand yourself and understand that you need to just have the good people around you to keep you going.
It 100% makes all the difference because there's the quote, you're the average of the five people you surround yourself with. And I have surrounded myself with really shitty people and seen how much of a really shitty person I can be. And then I've surrounded myself with people who like you, like, yeah, you got this. Hey, what do you need help with this week? Like when you surround yourself with people who have enthusiasm, positive criticism, because that's a big difference too, is the criticism that you receive. Some people are very just mean and ruthless and absolutely unnecessarily negative. And when you experience those people, it's very hard to, keep your momentum, keep your steam going. So I would 100% agree with that. Having the right people in your circle is absolutely vital to not just being an entrepreneur, but being happy and surviving life.
Yeah, I think one of the quotes that I always go back to is if you want to go faster, go alone, but if you want to go further, go together.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to write that one on my wall.
Yeah, that's a good one because it always reminds me that slow is smooth, but smooth is fast. Right? Like I would
Mhm.
rather us do this together and we get it done correctly the first time and not have to go back. Because how many people do you know? And I'm sure saw this coaching people into wholesaling and whatnot. They just jump right in. They're like, cool, I made an offer on 10 houses and my offer got accepted, but now I'm at like 92% ARV. Cool.
90% ARV. I don't have anyone to help me dispo it. I have absolutely no idea what I'm supposed to do next. Who's a TC? How do I pay for the TC? What if the TC doesn't do the paperwork right? Am I supposed to call title? There's a lot that goes into it when you try and do it alone.
Right.
And then you panic. And when you panic, you shut down. And when you shut down, everything falls apart. And then you end up in this little tiny black hole at the bottom of the ground where you're just wallowing in self pity because you have absolutely no idea how to dig yourself out. I say all of this from experience, truly, I do.
After you gave somebody a $67,000 offer to their face with your clipboard.
Yeah, dude, that was. I will say though, one thing I am good at specifically is I bounce back very quickly. Like, give me 1 or 2 days. I don't. The only way you fail is by giving up.
Yeah, I'm with that. I think especially too in the paid groups, most of the people that join those groups are so awesome too that like the rejection is not the same. You know, you did door to door sales. I did door to door sales for a period of time when I was like 21 or 22. Like that's hardcore rejection. That's
Oh yeah.
people are threatening to call the cops. People threatening to shoot us. I saw drug deals. Like I saw all kinds of stuff. Like I wish I didn't see. You know, But like when
I had one guy open the door with a gun, looked at me, and then just put it in his pocket. I was like, yeah, I'm scary.
Carlin, Carlin the terrifying. The
Uh,
intimidation factor was real from that 19-year-old white girl in the hood.
yeah, I had half my head shaved. My hair was dyed purple. I was scary.
Oh, so you were punk rock. Got it.
Yeah, something like that.
But like that's hardcore rejection. Like when you're trying to raise capital and you're trying to do things in the communities, most people are nice. And I mean like it is such a soft letdown. And I still see people get tied up on it. And I'm wondering if you see that too.
All the time is when you're not used to rejection and you're not comfortable with rejection, and you also don't understand that rejection is just part of, again, not just on entrepreneurship, but life, it's very hard to digest. And I think that stems a lot to our childhood and the way we're raised, because most of us, I'm willing to bet 9 out of 10 people here, most of us grow up with, oh, don't do that, you might get hurt. And you're protected. You have people protecting you, you have people telling, oh, don't do that, you're going to get hurt. And so we don't do the things that hurt us. It's like buying a bike and then being like, okay, we're not going to actually ride the bike because you're probably going to fall off and it will definitely hurt. So let's just look at the bike.
Yeah. Yeah, you're never gonna get your driver's license because the likelihood of you getting in a car wreck is too high.
Yeah. So we grew up with that mentality. And then you get into, i.e., the real world, and the real world gives zero shits. And since most of us grew up with this very protective state, it's very difficult to accept that rejection, that hurt. You get hurt, you get in your feelings. When you get in your feelings, you dig further into your feelings. So if you're having a bad day, it's like when you're sad and you go listen to a sad song.
Yeah.
And then you just sit there and think of all the sad things that have happened in your life and you dwell on that sadness because that's where your body is. And it's like, oh, okay, you know what? Let's just stay here.
Yeah, you kind of hurt your own feelings again and again and
Yeah.
again.
And that's what rejection is, not only in life, but in business, heavily in business. You you are so good, especially in wholesaling. You are so good at hurting your own feelings because you're like, oh, this one person said no. So everyone else is probably going to say no. And this person said something mean to me. So I'm definitely probably going to have a lot of mean things said to me. And I don't want people to say mean things to me because I'm a nice person. So,
That's a
and
really
the,
good point, actually, too. I think most people like had a bad day, but they actually had like a bad 10-minute conversation
yeah, a 10-minute conversation will ruin someone's whole day.
because they sit there and they ruminate about it over and over and over again, especially God forbid if it happens in the morning. Like if that bad conversation comes like 8 a.m., they just go brooding about their whole day, like, oh, Carlin said this to me, and I don't know what to do about it. Well, there ain't shit you can do about it.
You can be really upset and sit and dwell in your little hole of self-pity, or you could acknowledge the fact that that was a 10-minute conversation. You have absolutely no idea the circumstance of the other person and why they said something mean to you, and carry on with your day. Because I think
Yeah.
that's where a lot of it comes into play is you don't acknowledge the other person's perspective. Like if you and I got into an argument and you were like, Carlin, your hair is flat and stupid, I'd be like, oh, Adam, that was so mean. And maybe you're just having a bad day about how your hair feels or something like
Yeah.
it, but I won't take the time to acknowledge that because you've hurt my feelings, and my feelings are clearly more important than your feelings. So there's absolutely no reason to dig into why you would say something hurtful.
Yeah.
So instead, I should respond and be like, hey, Adam, is everything okay? How are you doing today? What's going on? How are you feeling? Is there anything that you need to talk about?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Besides, if Carlin picks on you, just tell her she's a bully and then just move on.
That's what most people do. Fun fact, takes a lot of work to hurt my feelings.
I could see that. I don't know. Like I said, I'm kind of that way too, but I think it's hilarious because like when people in SubTo let you down, they're like, "Well, this just isn't the right deal for me, but I'll tell you why." And they're like, "I'm so sorry." And I still see, even though that's like about the easiest lay down that you could get and like just move on to the next, some people still get hung up. And they're like, but Carlin still said no. And because Carlin said no, everybody's gonna say no. And I'm never gonna get this money raised. And then everything's gonna go wrong. Like,
I've actually read something opening using the word sorry. This is interesting. Using the word sorry in a situation actually opens up the door for more self-pity. So instead of being like, hey, I'm so sorry, this deal doesn't work for us, but I'm so sorry. It would be like, hey, Adam, I really appreciate you bringing this deal to me. Unfortunately, it's just not going to work. It's easier to accept that statement than someone being like, oh, so I'm so sorry. I'm begging you for your forgiveness because this didn't fit what I needed.
yeah,
Read psychology books for fun.
because you're warped like that.
Yeah, it's human behavior is super cool.
You're like, I'm just gonna understand all the things about psychology, and I'm also gonna coach people on psychology.
Hmm. Basically, I know all of the ins and outs of the brain in sales. I just really suck at sales.
It's all reps, man. It really is. Like, I just tell people, I'm like, I'm too stupid to quit. And they're like, yeah, but you're not stupid. You're not that. And it's like, no, like, you don't understand. Like, the smart decision by modern standards is to not be an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 19. I'm too stupid to quit. Like, I just keep going.
I was a straight F student. Absolutely no college would look at me and be like, yeah, we want that.
Yeah. Well, I got into college and I dropped out. So
Yeah, high five, dropouts. Yeah.
dad was too much of a tiger parent for me to like fail out of high school. So I still finished high school with like, mm, I went to a Catholic school, so I had like a 3.0 GPA, but really my core GPA, which was like the core GPA was like 2.75 or something like that. So I was like a BC student.
Yeah, I my parents didn't have much of a choice. Like I turned 18, they were like, "Hey, by the way, we gave you actually two more free periods, so you're missing two credits, so you're going to have to stay an extra year." And I was just like, "Out, never showing up again."
Deuces.
I got my GED before my class walked. I was like, "Yeah, that was a fun 4 years, guys." I don't know if I technically come to the like the 10-year thing or like what we're doing here.
Don't
But
worry. We had a 5 year and a 10 year, and I didn't go to either. And I did
I don't
well.
even know what my class does. I don't even think my class had like a 10-year. They're just like, yeah, we're all like kind of tied up in things. Like, yeah, okay. That's great. Me too. I really didn't want to go.
Yeah. I didn't want to see you guys anyway. So that being said,
Well, so the school that I went to is I grew up in Los Alamos, New Mexico. So for anyone who's not familiar with history, that is the town that developed the nuclear bombs for World War II. And the town exceeds expectations for intelligence. Like the people there are so smart, they're stupid. So most of them have like PhDs, like really, really high degrees, engineers, like all the smart people things. But I would sit and I'd watch people attempt to cross the street. Like they'd stand at a crosswalk and just stand there, and the cars would stop, and these people would be standing there, and the cars would be confused, and then these people would be confused, and nobody knows what's going on. And it was just like a giant comedy show, honestly. So I didn't really miss a whole lot dropping out. I clearly was not getting a PhD.
I feel that we had, so I went to one of the top college prep schools in like the state. And
Go.
similarly, like we had our valedictorian, I'll never forget that. He was able to calculate the amount of time that my friend had spent with this stray dog down to a second.
What? Why?
He did it all in his head. He was just able,
Why?
I don't fucking know. The kid was Indian. He like, he looked at us, he was just like, yeah, so hold on. Okay, so you spent exactly like this many seconds with this dog, but he couldn't pattern recognize why we were all standing in a particular order for pictures, and it's because that was the order that it went on, like the collage, which was alphabetical.
Oh, so what does he do in life now?
I don't know. He transferred out like junior year, which was kind of weird because, like I said, he was the valedictorian by like a long shot. Like he would have, I think he had like a 4.5 GPA or something insane. Like he took all the honors classes, was acing them, and then he just transferred out. They brought somebody else up as a valedictorian, who I also haven't heard from in forever. I know that the one that graduated with went to Tulane, and I think he's like a doctor now.
That makes sense. Maybe he has capital.
Probably. If
You're
he
like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
any accredited investors, by the way, in the audience.
Oh my gosh. Dude, it's crazy. Like looking back at the journey of where I started to where I am now, I never, ever, ever, ever would have expected um where I am, honestly. And I think that's good to a degree. Like having a predictable life probably really sucks.
Yeah,
But
and I don't think you're that cookie cutter of a person anyway. There's some people that are, and like that's their thing. They're like, cool. Like I like my 9 to 5. I like my BMW 328i, and I like my white picket fence and my dog, and that's it. Cool. But there's some people that have more than one dimension to them too.
yeah, predictable is not fun. I started growing watermelons in my front yard a couple years ago, and it started to cover up my rocks because New Mexico is xeriscaped and it's stupid. So I started growing watermelons, and now I am notoriously known around my town as the watermelon lady. So in the summer, people just pull up to my house and be like, "Hey, can I have a watermelon?" Like, yes. Yeah, you
That's
have to talk to me now.
that's how I know you're more extroverted than I am. You're like, they have to talk to me, and I'm like, no, don't talk to me.
Where there's a YouTuber that James and I like watching. His name is Ryan Trahan.
Hmm.
And so when I woke up from my nap earlier, James was watching a couple of his videos and he looks at me and he goes, I wish I was like that. I was like what? He goes, I wish I could just walk up to strangers and talk to them. It's like, no, you don't. You don't wish that. I promise. It's a blessing and a curse. The amount of times I've gotten myself stuck in a conversation because I had to comment on like someone's hair or shoes or something.
That's fair, but I think that's a curse no matter what, because like even coming from somebody that's more introverted, like I don't always know how to exit that conversation. Like if I walk up to you in the grocery store and you're just talking my ear off, I'm like, fuck, dude. There's no reasonable excuse for me to just have an Irish goodbye and just like fucking bolt.
Oh, dude. Oh my gosh. So we got the girls' cell phones recently, and it's so funny because one of them is very formal and very proper, and then the other one is just wild. And it's so funny. I'll send you the screenshot of the text sometime. It's so, so funny. So they were texting each other because the wild one is actually my bonus human. So she's over at her mom's house 50% of the time.
Mhm.
And she had called my oldest and they were talking and she was done with the conversation. So she just hung up. Like, like no formalities. It's just like, oh, click. And so their text, Jasmine texted Lilith and said, why did you hang up? And Lilith's response was, we were done talking.
You have your own Haley in house.
Yeah, it was so funny. Like just the texts that I get from them are the funniest. I thought I was gonna really hate my kids having cell phones, but it turns out I think I have more fun with it than they do.
I think it's probably almost like if our dogs could text us.
It was so funny. She's like, why did you hang up? I was done talking. Like I wish I could do that. Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
have so many angry texts. Like, why'd you hang up? It's done. It was no particular reason.
Oh my god, dude, that's too funny. I
I'll send you the screenshot. It's gold.
I feel like that's probably something my kids would do if I had kids.
Oh man.
But I guess talk to people, like what are some of the practical tips you could give people that are starting out here, like whether it's in wholesaling or capital raising? What's some of, I guess, pick one area that you would say is your favorite, and let's get some
Mm.
practical tips.
I think my most practical tip is intentionality. So like when you join communities, SubTo, Gator, TTP, Keegly, whatever it is, whatever program, they always talk about how you need to build relationships, but they don't ever tell you why per se. They're just like, oh, go make 50 friends. So you spend all this time talking to 50, 60, 70, 80, hundreds of people. And most of it's like, oh, how many kids do you have? Oh, I have four. How many dogs do you have? Oh, I also have four. Oh my gosh, I have kids too. And then you get off that call and you've got no idea why you had that conversation, no idea what the other person's doing. Like you might have some sort of an idea. You're like, oh, that one guy I talked to, he's got four kids. I think he might be in Gator, maybe, but he
Yeah.
definitely lives in Nebraska. So you have all these random information just piled up about a random person, and there's no understanding of why you had that conversation, why that relationship is going to be important, and how you can actually work together. So I think the most valuable piece of information I could ever give someone is understand what you're trying to get out of that relationship. Understand what the other person is trying to get. Like for me, I actually have a little quadrant of like, okay, if I'm talking to a capital raiser, if I'm talking to a wholesaler, if I'm talking to a gator, or I'm talking to whoever, I have specific questions written down for that frame, I guess.
Hmm.
So even if we talk about our kids and our cats and watermelons and whatever else, like I still have almost a rubric to go off of for different information that I'm collecting. So I can actually be working on, oh, okay, Adam's a capital raiser. So I can work with him here, 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 and here. Here's what he has access to. So I can have an idea of how we're going to work together here, 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 and here. Oh, he knows people that are lending on this, and this. So
Hmm.
you're you have an actual understanding of what that person is and what they do and how they think and everything along that line, instead of just having someone saved in your phone as Adam from Louisiana. Because I
Yep.
have tons of people in my phone. It's just like, oh, Kate from Michigan. Like, I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, and I think intentionality is huge, right? Most people don't have intentionality with their relationships, but and how you do one thing is how you do everything. So they also have no intentionality with their communication, their honesty, the integrity. Like they just kind of show up, like you said, they're like, "Hey, Carlin, so Paige told us to network and it's family night. So like, when can you hop on a call?" And then, like you said, we talk about our kids, we talk about our dogs, we talk about our cats, we talk about our watermelon patch, like whatever it is. And then, okay, well, how did that relationship benefit you? One of the things that I learned from Pace in the Vault is that the average SubTo member has 60K to lend. So I'm always trying to have those conversations with people and be like, hey, just so you know, like this is what I do. I raise for people like Carlin, which we do. Carlin just gave us our first deal to raise for her. Hooray.
It's going to be sick,
Took y'all long enough.
dude.
The
It's a
daycare.
whole
I
it,
know.
it's and then on top of that, James is separating from the military now. So now we're trying to find a house to move our family into in Florida. It's just like I had a whole breakdown the other day. I was like, my brain hurts so bad.
Well, like I said, just stop short. Just move right here to Louisiana and then we'll all go out and we'll have a good time.
Yeah, I would definitely go for that, except James has a skill bridge opportunity, which means the military is the deciding factor.
Mm,
Yeah,
damn.
I know.
Well,
They
try
control everything.
try to stay at the top because that's still only like a 3-4 hour drive.
Dude, Louisiana was so cool, except for New Orleans. That place smelled bad.
I mean, yeah.
I also went to a Walmart where I saw a lady walking in her underwear. Like it wasn't like, figuratively nice. Like she would like the underwear was gone and she was very comfortable with that. It was
Yeah.
weird. It's a weird situation.
Yeah, New Orleans is a very unique place. It can be a very fun place. It can also be a very disgusting place.
We found the disgusting places.
Yeah. That's why I live
I
on the outskirts and I want to move further.
Yeah, so we went to, sorry, derailing on this one. We went to City Park and that was super, super nice. Like that area was
Hmm.
gorgeous. When we were in downtown, like by Jackson Square and stuff, ugh.
Yeah, that's the tourist trap area.
Yeah, that's definitely not an area you take your kids.
Mm, yeah, I mean, you can. At least that's what we used to do. Like when we were growing up, that was our like go play tourist for the day was like our fun like weekend activities. But again, like things have degraded since. I mean, I'm 31 now. Since I was like 7.
What? I thought you were like 25.
I know. I'm just that good looking.
Oh, I told Haley the wrong. She asked me, she's like, is Adam 31 or is he 25? I was like, I'm pretty sure he's 25. Oops, my
Well, I
bad.
like that from going on dates with girls that are both older and younger because the age is always a thing. So when older girls are like, dude, you're so young, I'm like, yeah, I'm just that good looking. And when they're like, dude, you're so old, I'm like, yeah, I'm just that good looking. And either way, it gets them.
What do you say when someone's like, "Oh, you're so dumb"?
You're probably right. I just play right into it, dude. Like I think that's the whole point is like you gotta have fun, and most people don't. And actually, when I worked in the quarter, like you were talking about in Jackson Square, that was where I picked up most of my entrepreneurship skills. Um, you probably don't even know this. I used to operate the pedicabs, the bike
I don't
tax,
know what that means.
the bike taxis that were running like up and down by Jackson Square.
Oh, I did not know that. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
I did that for years. I did it in the French Quarter. I bought my own shop in northern Mississippi. I bought out a business. It didn't succeed. I moved back,
Oh,
did it again, and then I went off and started the business I have now, which is this one. But
so why did you stop then? Why did you stop with that? Because that seems like a pretty big hit in that area.
two or three reasons. One was becoming chronic injuries.
Hmm,
I was developing sciatica from sitting on the bike seat for so long.
that makes sense.
Um, the other one was I ended up getting out right before COVID and the prevalence of Uber as well.
Um,
It's
yeah, but
really
see, I feel like the people that are going to New Orleans are looking for nostalgia.
some of them are, and some of them are also cheap asses. It's
Fair.
really hard to convince somebody to you're trying to sell them on because the city set the rate for us. It was a dollar per person per block. So, AK, if I'm taking you and James around, that's $2 per block. So if I pick y'all up at Harrah's and we go to Jackson Square, that's 7 blocks, that's $14.
And then you add four kids on top of it, so now it's $6 per block times. You
Right.
said 7 blocks, so that's $40 ish, 42.
Yeah, and usually for kids we would like even though we weren't supposed to, we would cut a deal or something. We would like for y'all we'd probably it'd probably be two cabs. We would say, all right, we're gonna count it as like four adults. But even
Mm,
still, that takes you from 14 to 28.
yeah, I could see how that would be difficult. So if you were the owner and the operator of it, how did the city determine what you like? Was it like they collected on royalties? Were they like the mob daddy?
The taxi cab bureau heavily regulates it, and we were all individual owner operators that rented the equipment from a company.
Oh,
So we were
interesting.
we were hired on as contractors. The company that owns the bikes paid two on-staff mechanics and like a manager or two. Not that's dissimilar from how y'all doing like the Gross Co. Like the managers would get like some kind of discounted rent. They would go out and they would usually ride. They would also like field phone calls and do a couple of like send emails. Nothing that crazy. And yeah, we would request the shifts that we wanted. And the idea was you always had to do what they call tripling. So we would triple whatever the rent was. So if you're supposed to pay about a third in rent, and if you didn't weren't able to gross that high, a lot of times they would try to lower the rent. So if rent's
Hmm.
$50, you should make 150. You walk with 100, they get 50.
Yeah, so I feel like this is very similar to the mob situation in Vegas.
It's not that dissimilar. In fact, pedicabs were banned in Vegas because they were becoming drug mules.
That makes so much sense. So my grandmother grew up in Vegas, and like some of the stories are just crazy. She's like when the Italian mob was like noticeably there, the city operated so nicely. She goes, they're underground now. Like they were forced underground, so they still have their ties and everything. She goes, since the mob had to go underground, the city has just gone to shit. And I was like, that's really kind of an interesting thought, like when you think about it.
You know, New Orleans was a big mob city too, right? And like it's the same exact thing. Like when the mob was prevalent, the city was very clean, it was organized, it was structured. You can see old videos from like the 60s and everything looks nice. You look at it now, it looks like Baghdad.
Yeah, I think I know some about that. I know a little bit about the history of New Orleans when it comes to like the French and the Italians and the Creole and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's where I picked up most of my skills from was basically just spinning a bike and spinning a yarn and pedaling a bike at the same time.
Hmm.
Because that was my job was to like basically if I got like let's say you and James and the kids on a ride, it would greatly benefit me to sell you on like, hey, instead of like us counting the blocks, what if I just kind of gave y'all my time, right? What if I billed you out at my rate back then was like $70 an hour. But you got me who's a homegrown, like local, basically giving you a tour of everything that I know, talking about like the architecture, the history, and all that kind of good stuff.
So you're skipping you're first of all, you'd make tremendously more money doing it that way because if you're charging people $70 an hour and you're working for what, like 4 or 5 hours a day, I would assume.
No, it was regular eights, sometimes tens or 12s. And I used to do doubles. So I'd do like 16, 18 hours on a bike.
Okay, yeah. So 16, 18 hours on a bike, you're hustling people for $70 an hour. I'm not going to do the math because I'm not a valedictorian, but that makes a lot more money than $1 a block per person.
Yeah. But that's what it came down to is we had to provide an experience. So like we used to race each other. We would do all kinds of shit. That that's
Hmm.
really probably from my most unhinged times. That's where I was most similar to Hilly. My
She
favorite.
is a fun person, though. She definitely made me do things out of my comfort zone, not in like a negative way, but ways that like it was much needed. As a mom, like you really genuinely need someone to just let you be unhinged for a little bit.
Yeah, my favorite thing to do back then was I'd like look over my shoulder and I'd be like, because they'd bitch if we were stuck in traffic and I'd be like, y'all can hang, right? And they're like, what do you mean? Like, y'all can hang, right? And they're like, yeah, yeah, sure, kid, do whatever you gotta do. We'd be like bobbing and weaving and like hopping curbs and doing all kind of crazy shit.
Lane splicing.
Yep. Oh, dude, I did that so many times. I got yelled at a lot, but it was fun. We used to have a lot of fun.
Oh man.
I know, man. But all that we got derailed from we were talking about like intentionality, which I think is fair, right? Like be honest. I think most people they struggle with that. They don't want to say, "Hey Carlin, this is what I need from you." Or "Hey Carlin, this is what I can provide you." You know?
Oh, I've got another one too. I think the most frustrating thing is when someone says, "Well, what can I do for you?" Which
Yeah.
is notoriously one of the most popular lines. And from the other perspective, ah, that line is just so stressful. So I'm like, I don't know what you can do. I don't even know you. I know you have 4 kids and a cat. Like, do
I
you want
think
to babysit? Would you love to babysit for me?
I think JJ Azizian's got a pretty good model when he goes around that, and basically what he says is, what you can do for me is you can be my friend. Like, this is the start of a relationship. Like, let's continue this, and then like we can help each other. Like, let's stay in touch. Let's continue to communicate. Let's do the things that friends would do.
Oh, he actually sent me a text last week. I should probably reply to that.
I scheduled on his podcast for next month.
Nice. Yeah, he
After,
got to see the unhinged version of Carlin as a mom. Like my kids were just running in and out. This is one of the more calm podcasts that I've actually gotten to do.
well, that's because I caught you right at nap time.
You did. Nathaniel Hoosapian, I think, is probably one of the funniest podcasts I've ever done because we got on and he was like, okay, I have this structure. This is what we're going to go through. And my kids are wild, bro. Like, they are wild. And so they were running in and out, climbing on top of me. And like, if he had a stack of papers, he would have just thrown them up in the air. But
Dude, that I can see. Actually, he's my guest next week.
he's so funny. Let me know if he wears a shirt or not.
Well, I was just proud of him because the picture that he sent me for the flyer, the one that you're on, obviously for this weekend, actually has him with a shirt on.
I don't believe that.
The picture that's going on the Canva flyer has a shirt on. I don't know if he will show up with a shirt on or not.
He's so funny. I cannot like. So he is one of our growth co-clients, and it was so funny because his wife Britt sent Jesse a picture of him sitting on the couch eating a bowl of cereal with his shirt off and the laptop on his lap. And that picture was Jesse's screensaver for probably 2 months easily.
I believe it.
It was so funny.
Well, thanks to you and Haley's shenanigans, like I said, he's coming on my podcast. Zach Bush texted me the other day, so he'll probably come on at some point. I don't think he's scheduled yet.
It was not my shenanigans. Let's be clear about that. Unless you have a good experience, it was not my shenanigans.
Well, I mean, you reminded me to text Zach, so that's always a good experience. Me and
Zach's
Zach,
also a great guy.
Zach, and Seth were all roommates for Squad Up Summit.
Oh, no way.
Yep, it was me, Zach, Seth, and Grady.
Oh, so you got stuck with a bunch of growth co people.
Dude, everybody thinks I'm in the Growth Co.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks I'm in Growth Co. Like, I should get like some kind of sash or something that just says like honorary member.
Dude, I will make you a shirt.
You should,
I will make you a growth co shirt.
yeah, I should get like some kind of honorary member status. It's the Growth Co. And then people think that the Integrators Unite call is my call too, and it's not.
So you should honestly be building some sort of allegiance. Like you should be getting a referral program set up.
Actually, Ryan Love, who is one of the people that runs the Integrator call, is now one of my JV partners on my Integrator team.
Ryan's awesome.
Yeah, him and I are both doing ops consulting right now for different clients, but we're bringing it together in house.
Nice.
So I
Well,
think
that'll be neat.
yeah, like once my engagement ends and once his engagement ends, everything that we sell, we're going to sell. It's going to be us together.
Mm. That'll be a good partnership. Ryan's super, super nice.
And also active duty transitioning out of military.
Dude, that should give you a really good indicator of how everyone feels about the military right now.
It does. Him and I have had some long conversations about it. I don't think I ever told you this, but that was my plan, was not to go to college, but was to go military. And
You dodged a literal bullet.
well, yeah, I was going to be in the Navy. That was my plan, was surface warfare. But well, they wouldn't take me for medical reasons, so sucks to suck. They missed out, not
Yeah,
me.
that's what I was gonna also do Navy and got denied for medical reasons.
Oh, you too?
Yeah, they're like, oh, you have flat feet, poor eyesight, and you have asthma. You were literally the last person we want. It's like, oh, I don't know why my feet matter, but all right.
Hmm. I figured flat feet would be better if they give you flippers.
That's what I said. The recruiter does not think jokes are funny, though.
That most of them don't have much of a personality. We
Hmm.
yeah, I got denied for brain surgery, so there's that.
Oh,
Brain surgery and 2 grand mal seizures. So that gave me loss of fine motor skills, loss of eyesight on one side. You know,
but you got smarter.
I don't know about that. I
Oh
really
man.
don't know if I got that from it. I got more determined. It definitely gave me my work ethic. Like I had to work harder than everybody else because nobody believed I could do anything because I didn't have the fine motor skills on this side.
Yeah. Well, I believe in you, Adam.
Oh, I believe in you too, Carlin.
Thanks, Adam. Oh, cool.
Like I said, even if I'm gonna just gonna have to be honorary member of the growth co for now.
We'll get you a badge. Get you a badge and I'll make you a hat.
That would be cool. Make like a SubTo hat, but instead of it being the peace sign, it'd just be the growth co.
We're working on merch. It's on my long list of things that I need to get taken care of.
Yeah, it's a headache. I did a couple merch launches for my company because it helped us through COVID when all the
Yeah.
restaurants shut down. And it's a headache. The main reason that we were able to sell, I don't know, a couple $1,000s worth of t-shirts is because people like the logo. They think it's cool.
Is that your logo?
Hmm.
I think it's cool.
I thought of it myself, and people thought it was a self-portrait.
I can see that.
I mean, the hair is a little similar, but so be it, right?
Oh well.
But yeah, dude, no, I'm glad that you and I got to have the conversation. If I've asked people a couple times if they have any questions. It doesn't seem like we have too many.
I got a question.
Yeah,
I've
what you
got an
got?
answer.
What's up? What's up?
Let's
How
see.
y'all
Where'd you
doing
go?
today? Can you hear me?
Ah,
Yeah, we got you,
yeah.
Tyler. What you got?
Sorry, my AirPods are messing up. No,
Oh.
yeah, just listening a little bit. I was kind of running around a little bit for a minute there, but I was curious. I wanted to know a little more about Growth Co and what it was. I was kind of looking into y'all in the background, and I
Oh.
followed the Facebook group, but just wanted to know a little more about it because I'm deep into wholesaling. I've been wholesaling like 7 years. Um, I've got some rentals and stuff too, but have a team in place. So that's like my 9 to 5 though, I'd say, wholesaling. So it's like it's been hard to transition straight into like rental properties. And that's kind
Yeah.
of been something I've wanted to do, but it's like I want to automate this wholesaling business first. So like
Yeah.
I guess and it sounds like growth co is more like I guess like acquiring rentals or I don't know. Tell me about it. What is
Oh, you cut out for a small second there, but I'm going to take a stab in the dark on answering your question. So, Growth Co is specifically focused on building out your buy and hold business. So, similar to what you just said, like wholesaling is a literal 9 to 5. Like, there are so many moving parts. And so, for the people who haven't built out a business and haven't, like, you know, how do I want to put this? Most people get into wholesaling with the anticipation that it's going to be a transitional step. And when you realize it's not a transitional step, it's literally developing an entire business, and you have to have acquisitions, and you have to have disposition relationships, and you have to have TCs, and you have to know how to talk to title, and X, Y, and Z. I mean, it sounds 7 years. That's a pretty good amount of time to be wholesaling. So
yeah.
you
And I
probably
have
got
the
the
team and
systems
all that.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I have all that. I just I've always wanted to like fully automate it, I guess. It's always been the goal. I didn't get in it to for real estate per se. I got in it to like create a business that
yeah,
just kind of ran on its own. And I've always had a team since I started. I mean, I immediately, was hiring people because that was my intention. But I've always been looking to bridge that gap into kind of full time getting into rentals or like transitioning the team over. But I guess I have, turnover with the team and stuff. It's like, how do I kind of them into to the rental space where we're just kind of acquiring rentals versus,
yeah,
just wholesaling literally everything. And for some reason, my mindset is like, all right, once I get to like a certain amount of deals per month and enough revenue, then it's like, all right, let me start cherry picking. But it's like with wholesaling, it's cash heavy, it's cash in, cash out, and it's just, it's like where do you find that spot where you can, that sweet spot where you can start cherry picking stuff to keep?
Full transparency, I've seen a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of people who were like, I'm going to cherry pick. And little to none of them actually end up cherry picking. Like
What?
it is
Mhm.
very heavy cash in, cash out. So with what we do in the Growth Co, it's our idea is building a relationship with someone like you who has the full system automated or full system in place. So you have the team, you have a structure for acquiring properties. Because
Yep.
as a buyer, the last thing I want to do is have to build out an entirely new company to be able to build a company.
Right.
So our idea is, hey, go connect with wholesalers, because most people that I talk to in the wholesaling space have absolutely no desire to be there. Like they're like, oh, I'm gonna go into real estate and I'm gonna build this massive empire and everything's gonna be great. But I was told that I have to start with wholesaling. It's almost like getting hazed in college. They're like, ah, you have
Yeah.
to do this first. And so they end up on this little hamster wheel where they're just turning and turning and turning and trying and trying and trying. So the reason we put together the Growth Co is because a lot of the times people's goals and their aspirations don't align with their actions. And we want to help you align that. So if your goal is to be a wholesaling company, you do you, boo boo. Like, do you do your wholesaling? We will work together because we are buying properties. But if your goal is to be in the buy and hold space, then we want to help you understand and help you develop the systems to be able to put that into place. Like making sure you have the operations manager,
Mhm.
making sure you have your SOPs, making sure you have all of the things that you need to have structured and placed so you can actually operate as a buy and hold business.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and I've always been one to follow a blueprint, follow a, you know, a process and not try to really like recreate the wheel, you know. Sometimes I get my own way with that, but like anytime I've like followed a process to the T and like this is like following the traction process, for example, for my wholesaling business, like follow it to the T. This is how we're going to structure this, how it's going to set up. It works out, you know. And I guess I was looking at another guy named Kareem. I don't know if you know him. He does a lot of Section 8 rentals, but that was kind
Ooh,
of
I need to
I'm
follow him.
kind of yeah, and I'm kind of at this point where like I do have a solid team in place, the wholesaling business. We have deals coming in every month. It's good, but it's like looking for that next phase because I was talking to Adam about this, I don't know, a couple days ago actually. We were talking about like what's your passive income goal? Like, you know, I'm a third of the way of where I want to be, and that one third is all from rental income, right? And it's like wholesaling is not gonna hit, you know, get me that wealth goal of more passive income. It's just my job at the end of the day, if you think about it.
Yeah.
And it's a cool job because I get to work from home with kids all day, you know, like it's virtual. So it's really cool, but it's not really getting me to that wealth goal that I'm looking for, which is more passive income, you know. So and I think it's just hard to make that jump sometimes, especially when you have a team to feed and you don't want to cherry pick a deal. It's like you got commissions to pay, that money has to go back in marketing, like
Yeah.
uh, you know, so
It's
just
not an easy process, especially so you're one of the very few people I've talked to that actually have a system automated, like not automated, but
Close to
compounded,
that.
put
Yeah.
together. Most
yeah.
people I talk to, they're like, I have a team. It's exactly like how me and Jay-Z started. It's like, I have no idea what I'm doing. You have no idea what you're doing. Let's, I guess, try and figure this out together. And it's mostly just a bunch of confused people trying to understand what they need to do next. So I will say the fact that you have a team put together and things are actually moving in a forward motion is 10 steps further than what I usually talk to.
And
Well,
Tyler,
thank
I'd
you.
also say, like you were talking about when I get to this level, check out Gap and Gain by Dan Sullivan. It's a really good
Such a
book.
good book.
That's the
Yeah.
second time I heard that book, actually,
I believe
and I
he's
haven't
also
got
the one that wrote Who Not How, which is the one that everybody else
Mhm.
in SubTo recommends. But
yeah.
and gain is really simple. Are you measuring yourself from where you started, or are you measuring yourself from the ideal? Right? Because if you measure your if achieved is here, started is here, and ideal is here, if you're always looking up at the ideal, you're never gonna get there because you're always just gonna keep moving the goalposts and moving goalposts and moving goalposts. And that's one of the stories he talks about in the introduction. Is this one guy had like $5 million in a portfolio, and well, I'll be satisfied when I get to 10 million. When I get to 15 million, he gets to 17 million, pulls all his money out of the stock market, and misses out on some of the biggest days that the S&P 500 had to date. Scared money doesn't make money. But, it's just about where you measure. Are you measuring from where you started, or are you measuring from where you're trying to get to?
I
Yeah, I
like
love that.
you guys played Mario Kart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my favorite example. I like to race my ghost instead of race the players. Because when you're racing your ghost, you're lapping it. You're trying to lap it. And that's what we need to be doing in life is racing ourselves from who we are yesterday to who we need to be today. And exactly like what Adam said, if you're waiting till you hit your next milestone to make the leap, then oh, then you're not hitting your milestone because now you've exceeded that, or now you don't have that leap. You don't have that anything to compare it to. That's stretching the band. It's stretching the comfort zone. You have to be able to stretch it to be able to achieve it.
Yeah. No, I would totally agree with that. I guess he must have lost connectivity there.
It's okay. He'll be
There
back.
he is. He got back in.
I'm not.
Oof.
Man,
What?
I guess we can't get rid of you that easy, huh?
I know, right? Just hop right on the computer.
It was a good attempt. We tried. We tried.
Uh-huh.
I said that about
But
somebody.
I heard racing the ghost because you're going against yourself versus trying to compare yourself to others. Kind of ideal.
Yeah.
Like that notion there.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, it goes back to what Adam was saying and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier is stretching yourself. If you're waiting for who you are to be able to achieve the next thing, you're not going to achieve that next thing because you're never going to fit into that box of who you want to be. Like you have to push yourself. You have to force yourself to do that thing and stretch your rubber band if you want to achieve that.
Yeah, well, and that's also why, Tyler, I was telling you too, like so Carlin, you'll probably agree with this. He was like, well, I want to decrease my bottom line some so then I can increase my passive wealth. And I was like, cool, dude, but you can't kill yourself like with optimization.
Yeah.
You know, like we were talking about, him and I were looking at one of the RV parks that I showed you too, Carlin, like
Mhm.
870 grand for 24 pads is not a bad, or 36 pads is not a bad deal. It's the same amount of work and effort to acquire something that's that big as it is to acquire that single family home. And you might make $200 or $300 a month off that single family home. Like, why not just
Yep.
swing a little bit harder?
Yeah. Might take a little bit longer, but you're getting what you said 34 pads, 36 pads for
870 grand as opposed to going and buying like a duplex or a triplex or a quadplex for that much.
yeah, it's at that point it's just time and duration. It's like a multifamily. You get one or two multifamilies a year, but you're getting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times the amount of revenue that you would
Yeah.
if you wholesaled and or purchased a single property in a month.
Yeah. And that's something we're moving into more is focusing more on multifamily. Even on the wholesaling side, we wholesale a lot more multifamily now, and eventually I just want to jump straight into buying apartments and stuff like that.
Why is it
Like,
eventually that's what you want to do?
well, I mean, I am now with like creative financing. Like we just bought a triplex on creative financing. It's just like we don't pick them up unless we're getting like crazy terms because we're using our own capital, right? Like the last one was like 5,000 down, $500 a month. It was already cash flowing. Like we got a stupid deal on it, and it's like that doesn't pop up every day, so it's not
So
scalable. It's like we got lucky on that one, right?
why are you using your own capital though?
Just because I never, I just started reading about private money and like really just started opening my eyes to it. And I'm part of SubTo, and I even told Adam this. I'm like, yeah, man, I barely went through the course, and like, I probably should go through it some. Um, but yeah, no, that's something I'm starting to learn about now. Is definitely raising private money, and the more I talk to, and that's the thing too. Like even in my wholesaling business, like I'm not on the phone with the buyers, I'm not on the phone with the sellers. I'm kind of just like managing a team. And I was like, I want to hop back in Dispo for some reason, or just like call my buyers list and like see, start raising capital that way, or figure out what kind of way I can like raise capital through the relationships I already have so we can start taking deals down.
Okay, so you want to do dispo, you have your wholesaling team, but you also want to be in buy and hold.
Well, I'm saying like I like the idea of kind of jumping back on the dispo side of wholesaling just because I'm in front of the buyers, I'm in front of the, and it's like I could kind of start trying to raise private money that way, just through the relationships.
How
Because
does that
that's the
serve
thing,
your purpose, though? How does that align with what your goals are?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like why not just jump straight into it?
Yeah, I mean, you've got, Adam. Fucking killer at dispo, or not dispo, at capital raising. Like you don't have to be talking to people to raise capital. You can talk to people who specialize in raising capital.
Yeah, you're
You know
right.
the part, Carlin?
What?
You know the best part is he's in my backyard.
What?
Yeah.
Tyler,
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Tyler and I are hosting a meetup.
everything, trying to do everything.
Stop it. Stop it. I'm going to send you a list of books that I should just force you to read. So you've got The
Send
Gap and
them.
the Gain.
I read every night.
Okay, you've got The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan.
Got that?
You've got
Who Not How.
yeah, you've
Not
got Who
how.
Not
I
How.
got that.
The
Okay.
compound effect.
Yeah, it's not it's the You Got This. It's called You Got This.
Yeah, I sent the link for that one earlier. I got that one.
Yeah. So read that one. And then the last one, I think the one that you should read first, number one here, is called The One Thing.
Oh yeah, I got that. I
Read
read that one a
that.
long time ago, actually.
Read it again.
Yeah, it was audible, double speed, driving.
No,
I think I got
digest
it
that
right here.
one. You can slow it down, dude. You've got you need to bring your goals in. You need to focus on the one goal and find the things that are going to align with that. You have absolutely no reason to be talking to capital. Outsource that. Find Adam and Adam's friend because they do that. You don't need to do that.
Okay.
Find
Gotcha.
wholesalers who have functioning businesses, much like yourself. Don't try and cherry pick your own deals because you'll exhaust yourself doing that. Find people who have deals and do that. Johnny is on here. Find people like Johnny who can underwrite and outsource that.
And also just find people with a lot of relationships because guess who introduced Johnny to Carlin? Shocker.
There you go.
It's all about the relationships. It's all about the intentionality, and it's all about having a clear vision. Is if things don't align with your vision, say no to that. You don't need to do that. Put that away. Throw it away. Burn it. Lay it on fire.
Love that. Yeah, I think that's the problem with me is, the vision was always moving goalpost, right? Like you said earlier.
Yeah, don't move your goalpost. Move your body to the goalpost.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. We started implementing traction and just like I really wanted to. I mean, my goal still is like I love the wholesaling business. Like I would really want to scale it to a certain level. I had it at 30 grand a month consistently for some years, and I'm like, all right, how do we get to 50? Like let's get to 50. We got to get
Is
to
that
50.
net or gross? Is that after you
Gross.
paying out your team?
Gross.
Oh, okay.
30.
All right. I'm not
Yeah.
shabby.
Yeah, we did that. We did that for years, and recently it's taking a little dip because I'm moving some things around. I have an integrator. The guy that's been with me on acquisitions for 3 years, he's now moving into an integrator position. And we're just following traction to the T, right now. And I'm trying to, like, the goal is like, I want to get this business to 50 grand. Like, that's the vision right now. And that's his vision. That's the team's vision. Like, that's what we're trying to do. But I know, like, my end goal is to build passive income. So I'm just kind of like, I guess it's like conflicting, right?
Yeah.
It is because you only have one brain.
Yeah.
You might only have two brain cells left after all the shit you did.
Yeah, for real.
But like you gotta find one vision and one goal and stick to that. And like even I struggle with that too. Like I'm part visionary and part integrator. So I will go off and I will start like 6 different projects.
Yeah.
And all of my
Me too.
projects have since receded. I've had to bring that rubber band back in. We raise capital and I've got an integrator team. Like I don't actually do most of the work on the integrator team. My job is literally if somebody like Carlin comes to me and she's like, hey, we need this done. We need to automate our leads. Guess what? I maybe help with the proposal. I mostly just organize a scope call. That's my role on that team. That's it. So I can focus the bulk of my time on capital.
Love that.
So that's why you and I got to finish underwriting those parks, bro. We got to go take one down.
Yep. So Johnny, you underwriting? Y'all
Johnny's
said
under,
Johnny does some underwriting?
Johnny's
Johnny does.
underwriting. I got him an RV park calculator from a friend of mine. Did I send it to you, Tyler?
I don't know. I know I sent you one I had for apartments.
I got the one from Shane and Brian, the guys you met last week with the fund of funds.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. No, you didn't. I don't think you sent that to me, but yeah, definitely love to check it out.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. But yeah, bro. I mean, but this is it, right? Like, talk about intentionality. Like, you and I, we said with intention, we said we're gonna host a meetup. We've been kind of circling the drain around, like, me, you, and TJ sitting down, but officially next week, because we put it on the calendar, it's happening, right? Like,
Yes,
we have
sir.
a dozen people that we invited to this real estate meetup.
Yep.
So where else do you think you can find capital at meetups?
Yep. Yeah, I guess I just wasn't ready for the capital reason side because I still haven't hit my goals yet in the wholesaling business. And it's
You don't
like, I'm not stopping until I do this, you know? I
you
have
don't
to
have to
hit
be
this
ready.
target. Huh?
You don't have to be ready for it. Does Carlin look like she's raising capital right now?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I guess you're right. Yeah. I never thought about, that, it's crazy that I never thought like, hey, Adam's raising capital, just get with him.
Dude,
And then
I've been
not
telling you
cherry
that.
pick out of my own pipeline too is like
I've
that's a
been
big thing
telling
that
you
I didn't
that for
even think
like
about.
2 months, bro.
No, I know, but I think the other piece is what Carlin said is like, don't cherry pick from your own deals because I'm thinking I have to cherry pick from my pipeline to take the stuff down, and I
No,
have to do the
you're
marketing to find those deals and underwrite them and all that stuff.
so if I'd assume after 7 years in wholesaling, you probably have relationships with other wholesalers who are
Yeah,
doing equal volume, correct?
yeah, I'd
Throw
say
yourself on their
probably.
buyers list. Like, hey, I'm still in the wholesale space, but that's a completely different revenue. I want to be a buyer. I am a buyer. This is what I'm looking for. Send me anything. Because if you've already got relationships with them, then you've done like 80% of the work right there. Relationships is primarily what it is. And once you've built the relationship with them and you're at the top of their mind, that's a no brainer. They're going to send you their first deals the second they can. And then instead of getting the shit stick deals that come through after they've been passed around to everyone and their brother, then you saved yourself a ton of time.
Bro, go get
Yeah,
on Scott's buyers list. Scott does the biggest fucking deals around here. That's the one with that had the portfolio you and TJ almost JV'd on.
yeah. Scott, I forget the name of his, but
Kodiak
yeah,
Partners.
yeah,
Go
yeah,
get on his buyers list. Look at his pipeline. Same thing. Like, I didn't send Carlin fucking deals. I sent her pipelines. Or I sent them to Grady. Or like I just try to play air traffic control sometimes. Like, I'll be like, cool, this is a deal. I'm not the person that's gonna negotiate this. I'm gonna send the pipeline to Tyler, let him pick out of it. He's gonna come back to me. We're gonna raise the capital and we're gonna take it down together.
yes, sir.
That's all it is, bro.
Yep, let's do it, man.
Well, I hope that answers your question a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure.
We got any other
More
questions?
delegation, it sounds like it's kind of
100%.
part of
All
most of
delegation.
what I got from it.
Well,
Delegate more. Do not how.
Delegate everything. If it's not something that doesn't bring you joy, delegate it.
Yeah.
Well, it's delegation and it's also outsourcing at the same time. Like, I have to explain this all the time and with my ops consulting client. Like, they want to do everything in-house, in-house, in-house. And it's like, yes, you can do that, but there's an upside and downside to both. Like, the pros of outsourcing is that you don't have to learn the skills, which cuts down the learning curve, the time, and the amount of money you spend. The downside is if you don't know the skills, you can't manage the outsourced appropriately, right? Like, I wouldn't hire Carlin to run my Facebook ads if I don't know how Facebook ads work, because she could just take me for a fucking ride and charge me 40 grand a month and be like,
Yep.
look, it's working. Well, by the time I catch on, it might be 6 months down the line. I spent 240 grand. It's a lot of fucking money to lose. So it's delegating where you can, picking up skills that you're interested in and complement what you're already doing. But outside
Yeah.
of that, dude, like, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's something I realized in myself lately is I was a good manager.
Bro, you
Like
can
managing
manage,
as
you can lead, and you can sell, and you
yeah, and
can.
that's something I'm learning more about is leadership and you know, and those I'm actually reading some books on leadership now, but I was always reading books on like how to build SOPs and how to, how to do all the little things that managers do inside of a business. And I think just that was my mindset going into this, it's like and there's only so much you could do with an SOP, you know what I mean?
Even
With
as
your
too, if
team,
you
if you don't
haven't.
have the leadership skills to lead them and take them to the vision, or if you don't even have a vision, then it's kind of hard to get them there.
That's
I think
actually
that's something.
something we hit really heavy on in the Growth Co. As long as being a leader and being a boss are two completely different things, but if you have the leadership skills, you can get everyone where they need to go.
Yeah, and that's something you know, I guess kind of embarrassed to say, but something I just opened my eyes to because I kind of took the two
Hmm.
for granted that they were the same thing, and until recently, my mind was just telling me like, all right, you need to read some books on leadership for some reason. And as soon as I started taking it out loud, I'm like, oh, this is what I've been missing.
Who
This
have
is
you been
definitely what
reading?
I'm reading right now, the 2021 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership
That's
by
John C. Maxwell.
yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
It's okay. The people who control the voting still think I'm a sir, so it's okay.
I was gonna say you
Um,
couldn't speak to being a dad, and nowadays I don't know.
I can be whatever I want.
That's
Okay, let me
uh,
What's some
see.
other good options you got there?
Patrick Lencioni is a really good one too,
And you
Tyler.
might hear a bunch of kids in the background, but I know y'all know.
I just finished the Five Dysfunctions of a Team. That's a really, really good one.
It's a good one. Not dysfunctional.
There we go. So John C. Maxwell, I'm about halfway through this book because I personally love John C. Maxwell and he's amazing. And they also use him for literally everything in the military.
Yeah.
He just released a book a couple months ago called High Road Leadership. 10 out of 10 recommend that.
What's it called?
High Road Leadership.
I'll look that one up too.
Yeah, that's a really good one. If you need books, just send me a message. I've got books.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
about
Tyler.
a year ago, I really started reading every day. At least like five, I was like 5 pages a day, and for about a year now. But before then, it was like very, very spotty. But reading, like I read, I think Rich Dad Poor Dad, like everyone here
Yeah.
probably. How to Win Friends, Think and Grow Rich. Those three were like, all right, this is all I need. I don't need to read anymore. And then I went and grew the wholesaling business, and now until recently, I'm like, why did I quit reading all
Tyler,
this
I've got a
time?
whole library. I can even loan you books. You're 30 minutes away from me.
Oh yeah, I got between me and TJ, we have a library too. I just haven't read them all. I was good at buying. I'm just not good at reading them.
Hey,
I'm very good
Carlin,
at
we're
buying.
gonna tie this up here because we're getting to the top of the hour. So I want you to kind of any parting thoughts and where people can find you.
Oh, okay. I've been heavy on IG lately. You can find me on the Insta. Um, it's just my name, Carlin.Hostert.
Send her funny reels. She'll laugh.
I will if I watch them. Out
If
of you're one of the very few people I actually watch the reels from. Is people just blow my shit up. They'll send me like 60. I'm just like, I don't have time for this.
same, I do the same thing. I'm
Oh
just
yeah,
like, I'll
that's why I
react to
don't even
it.
go on social media anymore because it's just stuff like that. I'm like, I can't.
Yeah, so Instagram, and then you can find me on Facebook as well. If you're in the Growth Co Facebook group, you can find me mostly spending my time in there.
Perfect.
Any parting thoughts, Carlin, for people?
Parting thoughts. Actually, this one is for you, Tyler. A boss can delegate a task, a leader will delegate the result.
Okay. Love that. I'm gonna have to put that one on the whiteboard.
I thought of that one all by myself.
No way. Are you gonna have to
Yeah,
put a quote?
I know someone's gonna take it, not quote
Uh,
me.
better make a Instagram post real quick and then put your name on the
Oh,
bottom.
you're
Make a
right. I haven't done
motivation.
that today.
Make a
Hurry
motivation
up.
poster, Carlin. Hurry up. You
Yeah.
got.
Hurry up. I'll
All
share
right,
it. I don't,
guys.
can you share on Instagram? I don't know. I haven't been on social media in years.
Oh, dude, you gotta get on social media.
I mean, I'm
Be
on there.
proactive.
I'm on there. I'm just not on there.
You're on there, just not on
My
there.
business is on there. You can look it up. You'll see it, but I'm not posting anything.
Start getting active, bro.
Okay, I'll try.
You gotta be active on there. I hate it too. Don't worry. I hate it.
All right, guys.
It's one of those things.
We're gonna tidy
Yep.
this one up. Y'all know the deal. We do these every Sunday. You can always come join us live here on Zoom. The only thing that we ask, if we made you think, we made you laugh, we brought you value, that you come back next time and you bring a friend. So until next time, guys, we'll come back with Nathaniel next week. So have a good
That's
one.
gonna be fun.